Chapter 3 Harvest Festival. The 2 months after they planted the barley seeds, the crops were ready for harvest. This was the case with most spring crops as summer drew near. The day of the harvest was also the summer solstice, the biggest holiday of the year in Overworld, when everyone celebrated the sun goddess herself, Sister Solstice. The day was not her birthday, because she is infinite, but the day she decided to come down from the heavens and make contact with Grishambark. The divination, as it's called in most religions, was the day the course of human history was forever changed. There was a big festival in town, which was customary. Everyone would attend, and those who wanted to could sell their crops. That was not Brute and the Hargroves' intention with their barley yield. In fact, they weren't stopping there, merely after the harvesting. No, they were planning to do much more with it before selling. Thatcher had to sit Brute down and explain this to him several times. It only took Nori once, but we should really stop comparing the two. While Nori and Brute were getting to know each other and learning the oboe, Thatcher had his heart set on learning to farm barley instead of wheat, for brewing instead of baking. He knew firsthand that farming a new crop could only be learned through trial and error. There were going to be some losses along the way. He wanted to minimize those as much as possible. He talked to his friends and fellow farmers and also went to public records to see if they had anything on barley farming. There wasn't much, but he was able to slap together some loose guidelines. And that's what he was explaining to Nori and Brute, and then Brute again when he asked for clarity, and then Brute again later when he confessed to forgetting. And now Brute one last time, who still wasn't getting it and was just too proud to admit it. The difference between the two, Thatcher said, is that what we need is a live crop, not a feed crop. The wheat stays dry in the silos, and we forget about it until we're ready to sell it or do something with it. This barley needs to be germinated and kept alive until it becomes malted barley. Nori nodded her head in agreement. Brute looked concerned at the notion of a live crop. Thatcher waited patiently for it to sink in. The old farmer didn't know if he had it in him to explain it to Brute another time. Finally, the big guy's look of consternation lightened. Brute looked at Thatcher with a eureka moment written all over his face. "The wart," he said. "That's right," Thatcher laughed. "We are moving a lot quicker than I expected. I don't have the yeast or the hops ready, and we don't have the hardware to process all that barley, though, even if we did." "Then it appears that you two have a lot of work to do. Perhaps you can find what you need at the festival." "That's a good idea, Pa," said Nori. "A lot of vendors go to that thing, especially all of the most popular shops in town. We're sure to find all we need." "There is a unique hop I wanted to get," confessed Brute. "Just one?" asked Nori. "Yes, to go along with the rest. It is a magical hop." "Are you serious?" asked Thatcher. "Completely. My friend Carmody spoke of it often. It's called the Idris hop. You need Requiem magic, and you need to know the right incantation to activate the hop. And even when you do, unless you sacrifice something important to you and bind it to the hop, it will never enrich itself to its full potential. If done correctly, the Idris hop makes the most delicious beer to ever touch your lips." Thatcher and Nori didn't speak right away. They took in what he said. After 2 months of living with the Brute, that was the most elegant thing to ever come out of his mouth. It also spawned about 100 follow-up questions. The biggest one was about Carmody. Brute wasn't really the sharing type, so they tried not to bother him with poking and prodding about his legendary past and why he had forsaken it. The Hargroves gave him all the space he needed. It was a big house, even for a big guy. Thatcher could count on his daughter to ask the next logical question. "How do we find an Idris hop?" "I don't know." "What?" asked Thatcher. "Only Carm knew." "Well, where is he?" asked Thatcher. "He's dead," said Brute bluntly. Thatcher felt kind of bad now, but how was he supposed to know? Finally, his daughter came to his rescue, probably without her knowing or caring. Okay, then we'll just work investigation into for this Idra hop. It's Idris hop. Idris hop. They both repeated it back to Brute. Brute nodded his head in satisfaction. I can keep the barley fresh for about a week or two from the tricks I picked up. But if we don't get the hop before then, we'll be forced to start fermenting without it. We can get regular hops at the festival just in case, and also use them for experimenting. Yes, I like that idea, said Brute. Okay, so here's the plan, Nori broke it down. We go to the Sister Solstice Festival and get everything made available to us for the yeast and hops to boil with the wort, while Pa stays behind and slowly, and I mean as slowly as possible, prepares the barley for the wort. Whatever we don't pick up tonight, like the brewing gear and the Idris hop, we go to town tomorrow for. Our trip is long overdue. Sounds good to me, said Brute enthusiastically. Since we don't have any incentive to sell at the festival, we can hold off on harvesting the barley for a couple more days. I know it's bad luck and everything, but we were never that religious. Go have fun tonight, and we'll clean up the rest in the days to come. I'm going to keep working on adjustments to the grain silos. Okay, Pa. You don't have to tell me twice. Come on, Brute. Nori grabbed Brute by the arm. The spunky girl tried to pull her beast of a friend toward the front door of the house. He didn't budge at first. Then he gave her the courtesy of acting like she was having an effect and started walking towards the festival. It was a short walk to the posting road and then over to Perennial Courtyard, where the festival was held. The unofficial town center of Cutler. The courtyard hosted most of the town events and nestled comfortably between the public records house, the constable's office, and town hall. Lanterns were lit all along the road and horse trails, practically lighting up the whole square. It made Cutler look absolutely beautiful. Nori convinced Brute to do a walkthrough of the entire festival before hunting down all of the ingredients and equipment they needed. Just to be safe, Nori compiled a list of everything they needed to run a proper brewery. Money wasn't an issue. They just had to locate everything. Some of the hardware they needed wasn't easy to come by. It sounded more like Arcana stuff than gear for brewing beer. But all sorts of stuff got sold at the festival. It was half flea market and half fair. Once they passed all of the treat stands and games, they came upon the shows and exhibits. After all the eye-catching stuff, all that was left were the vendors, who were only there to take advantage of the foolish. It made sense that they would run into none other than Pill Engeldorf. He greeted them both with a big hug. It was off-putting and uncomfortable. I'm so glad you two found each other. How's Dad back at home? Asked Pill. Hello, Engeldorf. Let me guess why you're here. You need brewing gear, barrels, boilers, and pipes. How do you know that? Asked Nori. Doesn't take a genius to assume a guy who bought a farm to plant his giant sack of barley seed is trying to brew beer. I guess it is fairly obvious when you phrase it like that, said Brute. You guys sure waited until the last minute, said Engeldorf. If you don't mind waiting a little longer, I can get you everything you need for your big experiment. How much time do you need? Asked Nori. About a week. You have 2 days, said Brute. Wow, okay, expedited service. My price just went up. That's fine, said Brute. Just get it done. We're going to look for the yeast ingredients. What ingredients? I can direct you to the right vendors. I know everyone here and can tell the scammers from the genuine article. Nori listed them. Dry malt, sugar, acid, milk, 3-mineral, and nitrophosphate salt. Okay, so I understand sugar, acid, and milk. How do I transport acid safely? And what the hell is nitrophosphate salt? We also need hops, added Nori. You got all that, or do you need me to write it down? I got it. Then repeat it back to us, said Brute. Malt, sugar, acid, milk, 3-mineral, and nitrophosphate salt. Pretty good, but it's not just malt, corrected Nori. It's dry malt. Right, got it, said Engeldorf. Trenip, the grocer, right down this row on the left, will have the best prices for sugar, milk, and maybe even dry malt. Boucheret, the merchant, will have 3-mineral acid, and if he doesn't know how to get the nitrophosphate, he'll be able to point you in the right direction. He's back where you came from, just to the right of the bottle ring game. Have you heard of any farmers selling hops today? Asked Nori. Yes, in fact, there are 3. Wow, you really are knowledgeable, said Brute. It comes with the territory. Why don't you go shop hops, and I'll have an errand boy pick up the rest of the items. Lead the way, Mr. Enkeldorf, said Nori flatteringly. What kind of farmers are these 3 selling hops? Asked Brute. They're all dependable, but they specialize in other things. The hops are just an easy second crop they grow on the side for extra money. Because of this, their hops don't have much range. Each one sticks to a major strand: bitter, zesty, and citric. Then that's easy. We don't have to go look. We'll take all 3, said Nori. How much do you want? Asked Enkeldorf. As much as you can carry, said Brute. Enkeldorf hooted in excitement and ran off. You might end up regretting that, said Nori. Brute gave Nori some coin to play a couple of games. She ended up winning the throwing darts contest and got to take home an apple cinnamon pie as the reward. By the time they finished having fun, men in Enkeldorf's employ were already standing around waiting for them, with the ingredients for the yeast in a bag, along with bushels and bushels of all 3 hops. Is this it? Brute asked Enkeldorf. Yes, sir. Not bad. You ended up budgeting less than I predicted. Here. Brute tossed some coin to him. Oh, I like this brick shithouse of a man, Enkeldorf said to his lackeys. Give them a couple more coin, Brute, said Nori. Huh? Brute muttered. If they'll take it all back to the farm for us, added Nori. They looked at each other, then nodded to Enkeldorf. That can be arranged. Brute grunted and pulled 3 more gold coins from his pocket. Enkeldorf's eyebrows went up. Is that a magic trick, or a never-ending supply of coin? Keep your pants on, Enkeldorf, said Nori. The townie laughed it off and talked to his men before bidding them farewell. Brute was smelling the hops in his bag. Brute was smelling the hops in his big, calloused fingers. He enjoyed rubbing them together and inhaling. The lackeys took the supplies away, and Brute and Nori were able to continue enjoying the Sister Solstice Festival. He could tell that Nori wanted to stay a while longer, even though everything was now taken care of. He followed her and started to mentally check out as they wandered around. That was until he heard a pleasant voice and saw a familiar raven-haired girl. She was talking to Nori right in front of him. Before he could think of something clever to say to make up for his obliviousness, she shook hands with Nori and walked away. Brute had just missed his chance. Well, that was interesting, said Nori. What was? Oh, nothing. I just casually brought up the Idris hop to Azalea, and she said she's heard of it. What? Brute practically jumped up with excitement. She's going to look into it, and I told her we would stop by the potion shop. You never know. She could find it for us. That would be amazing. This is all great news. Thank you, Nori. No problem, big guy, she said as she pounded his bicep. Brute had a confused look on his face. It was because of the way she was looking back at him, like Nori was doing everything but winking at him. It's okay, she admitted. She's a beautiful woman. Who cares if she's from Underrealm? We're not having this conversation, said Brute, walking off on her. Wait, Brute, Nori said, catching up to him. I'm just trying to help you out. I don't need your help, he said defiantly, not sure if he really meant it, but it felt right in the moment. That caused Nori to back off a little bit. Not much, though. She was relentless. She caught up to him and waved a peace offering in his direction. Do you want my apple cinnamon pie? For us regular folk, it could feed a family. But for you, it looks like it would make a nice walking treat. Brute didn't dignify her with an answer. He merely swatted the pie out of her hand and chowed down on it while they made one more lap through the harvest festival, then started to make their way home to the farm. It turned out that they had overdone it with walking through the festival. In the final stretch of posting, Brute carried Nori. She slept in his arms, feeling like a little girl again. It was an odd sensation, being cradled in Brute's arms. Like that made her feel like she had been Being cradled in Brute's arms like that made her feel like she had her older brother back. He carried her all the way to her room, only one stair fraction on the staircase. He ducked through the doorway and placed her gently in her bed. Brute was not a talkative man to begin with. Getting him to open up about his feelings was like trying to draw water from a stone. The closest he came to showing his affection were times like these. He took her boots off and tucked a blanket in all around her before leaving. They had a very successful night in more ways than one. Brute went from the morning dread of it all falling apart to the festival giddiness of hope that it might just all come together. He never thought life could be this exciting off the battlefield. Then again, these feelings of nerves and tingles could just be his imminent visit to the witch's potion shop in town.